everyone, it's Sharronda from Pay Your Weights, and today I'm going to be reviewing Succession Season 3, Episode 1, Succession. Guys, we are finally here. We had to wait 2 years to make it to the Season 3 premiere of Succession, and it did not disappoint. So for those of you who might not have known what happened at the end of Season 2, we saw that Kendall was actually supposed to be the one to basically fall under the bus, be the scapegoat to help the company amid the sexual harassment allegations that they tried to cover up. However, Kendall had other plans for everyone. He decided, you know what? I am sick and tired of being sick and tired of having to save this family. So you know what, Logan? You gonna have to be the one. You gonna have to reap what you sow. And so essentially he threw his dad under the bus, that he was aware of everything, tried to cover it up. And so now this is where we find ourselves, the aftermath. As soon as the press conference is over, we see that the episode opens up with basically everyone trying to see how Logan's doing versus everyone trying to see how Kendall is doing. We see that Kendall has locked himself in the bathroom. He doing breathing exercises, sitting in the tub. I said, Kendall, baby, what you doing, honey? I guess he had to take a moment to really understand, like, he finally did it. He finally stood up to his father, that killer instinct like he said that he didn't have. He finally has shown not only his father, not only his family, but really the entire world that he's going to do whatever it takes to basically take his dad down. And so now everyone's trying to figure out, what do we need to do? Do we need to be on the defensive? Do we need to be on our offense? What is actually happening? But we see that we're going to start with Logan for the sake of this recap. So we see that everyone's basically trying to check the temperature of Logan. He's quiet. He's kind of to himself. You know, Shiv and Roman and everyone, Frank, everybody's just sitting there like, do we need to talk to him? Like, should we ask him how he's doing? Where are we going? Like, everyone's basically looking to Logan to give them some type of answers. But we see that as the plane lands, they get off the plane. Logan gets in the car as they're trying to figure out what other destination that they're going to be going to. We see that Roman's like, he's just trying to be there for his dad. And he was like, hey, do you want me to ride with you? And he was like, do you want to suck my dick? And I said, sir, why is their father like this? Why is he like this? But Brian Cox is so amazing as Logan in this series. But honestly, like, even hearing him say F off, I was like, who would have thought that in 2 years, like, that's all I needed to hear during this panty to make myself feel better. That's all that I needed. But we see in the midst of all of this, Logan basically asks Shiv and Roman, like, hey, did you guys know what Kendall was going to do? Were you aware of what your brother was going to do? So they looking shook. I'm looking shook. Like, no, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know that he was finna just basically throw you under the bus. And so he's trying to figure out, who are the people he can trust? Who can he not trust? Who does he need to cut off? But we see that, they have the agreement that, hey, we need to find you a lawyer. All right. So essentially, he's asking for a good lawyer. And so they're like, do we get a shark? They're trying to think, like, what should their strategy be? And really, both sides of this, Team Logan and Team Kendall, they're both trying to strategize, like, how do they play this? And so they tell him, like, hey, you can get a shark, but it might be nice to, have a woman on your side, so then people can think like, oh, well, if the woman's representing them, then, like, obviously what Kendall said must be false. And I was just like, I was shaking my head at that statement, but then I was just like, but that's really how the world works. And so I was just hurt that this is actually like how people think. But we see that he was like, oh, like, you mean the woman who was representing the hookers? I said, sir, stop it. You cannot say sex workers. Is that what sex workers? Between that and him telling Roman to suck his dick, you have sexual harassment, like, charges with this company that you try. These are not the things that you should be saying right now, Logan. Haven't made sense for me. So we see that, he asked Shiv, like, hey, Shiv went to school with the Lisa lawyer that they're basically saying, like, she's a good lawyer. And so he puts her on that, like, hey, I need you to take lead on this. I need you to go, talk to her and see if she would, represent me. And so we see that Tom and Shiv have a very awkward exchange, because at the end of the day, from season 2, Shiv and Tom, they're in a very bad place in their marriage. Like, Tom was basically done. Like, I just can't do this. And so you can still tell that they have a lot of unresolved issues because this whole company thing happened in the midst of them trying to figure out what they were going to do about their marriage. And so they're still being really weird. And basically he was like, Logan decides where he's going to go, and he was like, your dad's gonna come back. And she was like, but why wouldn't he come back? Like, what are you saying to me? And then he was like, all right, take care. And then she's like, I was like, y'all not gonna hug, embrace, kiss, nothing. So clearly their relationship is very much fractured. And so we see that as they're talking about all of this and they're trying to strategize on the plane, that Logan is basically like, hey, like, I'm going to have a meeting with the shareholders, butter them up, tell them that everything is going to be okay. He was like, of course, I'll probably be asked to step back as CEO. So he was like, we need to put a temp in place. And so for those of you who have grown to love Succession the way that I have, we know that the whole general basis of this series is Logan is basically at the head of this empire. He has to choose his successor. And so we actually get into the cat and mouse again of who is Logan going to put in place to be the face of the company as CEO, even though he has already said that he will be pulling the strings of the puppet that they put in the place from the background. And so, of course, this gets Roman going. This gets Jerry, not really Jerry going. Jerry's kind of playing it cool, but this gets Shiv going. They've been going back and forth the whole time. Really, in season 2, it seems as though he favors Shiv the most. And so, we're all assuming that he's going to give it to her. But essentially, as they're going back and forth on this, I love how basically he says it's going to be between Roman and Jerry. And of course, Tom is a ride or die. Tom is a very ride or die type of person. Tom immediately goes to the bathroom, even though everyone knows what he's about to do. He calls Shiv, tells Shiv what's going on, and she plays it so cool, like, oh, really? Oh, 1 moment. Let me go to another room because I can barely hear. And then basically they're talking shop, like what should happen. And then he was like, do you want it? She was like, but do you want it? They're just, I don't even know how they got married in the first place. But when she comes back from this conversation after basically saying she wants it, and clearly we all knew that that was her intention, we see that Roman's like, so baby, who was on the phone? Did you get everything sorted out? Because while you were in there trying to be slick, honey, we already got the phone call and we know exactly what is going on right now. So they start going back and forth. And then we see that essentially, they land in Sarajevo, whichever one, you know what I'm trying to say. And so essentially they're talking shop again. And then Tom basically says that he likes the option of Jerry actually being the person to take over. And I was like, I'm not mad at that. But then he was like, but maybe Roman too. And I was like, make up your mind. I thought you're supposed to be like going for your wife. And so even Logan is like, you're not going to throw yourself in the ring. And so he was like, I mean, I can do it. But then he already dismissed him at this point. And so Roman basically decides to make his play. He calls his dad. He has a conversation and basically says like, hey, I want this. I know that, you were kind of favoring Shiv. And, he was like, I love Shiv like a brother. And I was like, and the noise that he made, Roman, you are her brother. Why do you and Shiv hate each other the way that you do? But when he said that and made the noise, I was dying laughing. Kieran is so amazing. He's so literally one of my favorite characters, Roman, on this series. I really love him in this role. But after he basically tells his dad that he loves him, he understands whatever decision he has to make. And then so essentially, and I don't know if this was Logan thinking because he said that, because he was like, well, if you don't, because he wasn't so cutthroat about it, that's why Logan was just hung up and was like, all right, Roman's out. It's between Jerry and Shiv. Let's figure it out. And so essentially, we see that after he says, like, is Shiv and Jerry, I love how the camera zooms in on them on the plane. It's just them sitting next to each other. I thought that was very clever. But also, too, we see that essentially Logan calls and basically tells her that she is going to be the CEO. He needs her to go and get Lisa. And so we find out that Lisa is actually played by Sanaa Lathan. They're friends. They go way back. But as Shiv is basically having this conversation with her, it wasn't to get Lisa to represent her father, but also to help Shiv weigh out whether or not she should actually take this temporary position as CEO, because she would basically be attaching herself to a sinking ship, a horrible image with sexual harassment. And so is that something that would actually help her or detract from her public image? However, before she can actually get all of this out, Lisa basically tells her like, hey, just to let you know, I'm not going to represent your father. I don't feel as though that we would be a good fit. And so basically she alludes to the fact that she is going to represent Kendall, which literally upsets Shiv. She basically acts like a child, causes a scene. She basically ends up leaving. She's upset. And so we see that because she wasn't able to land Lisa as her father's lawyer, we see that he makes another executive decision. He decides that instead he is going to go with Jerry as the temporary CEO. And now Shiv is out. She was pissed, but even more pissed because, of course, it was Roman who had to ask Jerry that basically, hey, let me be the one to tell her this news. And he starts singing the song. The song that he was singing to her, talking about how he gave up on her because she blew it. I was screaming. Literally, Roman. I always know I'm gonna get a laugh out of Roman every single episode, but she hangs up on him. But also too, I totally forgot that Roman has this whole thing with Jerry and how he wants to basically smash Jerry. And he was like trying to make advances at her. And he was like, well, since you're my boss now, like, can we get it on and poppin'? I feel like Jerry's going to give in to his advances. I do totally understand why he wants to sleep with her, because for him, she's a mentor. She believed in him when no one else did. And it's the only relationship with a woman that has actually like lasted longer than a couple of days. So I see why he has the attraction, but I'm very interested to see. I think Jerry gonna give in. Jerry said I don't do mess, and that's why I was able to be CEO, but I think she gonna give in, because like Roman, he not giving up, honey. He's not giving up. He's trying to get up in them draws. Just being honest with you. But we see that towards the end, after Shiv gets a phone call, she said that there's a change of plan. The car makes a U-turn. I think that she's going to Kendall now. I think she's going to switch sides. She's going to go to Kendall. She's upset. She's trying to play the game as best as she could, put her father's interest first, but also to doing what was best for her as well. And so now she feels betrayed. And I think that she is actually going to go to Kendall as a result of her father saying no. But since we on this subject, let me talk about Kendall, because Kendall was disrespectful on so many different levels in this episode. So we see that Kendall locked himself in the bathroom, right? He's breathing, he's doing his exercises, trying to really, did I really just do this? Is this exactly what happened? And then we see Greg outside the door. He was like, hey, are you okay? I'm going to have to break the door down. I said, Greg, in what world are you going to be able to break this door down? Haven't make sense for me, but we ends up leaving out. He has his game face on. He's like, let's go, let's get this started. And so as they're walking out in the press, Greg is like, no comment. And then Carol, she's like, Greg, you don't have to say no comment. Just don't comment. But he was like, oh, okay, I thought I had to say that. But then he just continues to say no comment, which I just love Greg so much. But we see that Carolyn has to make a decision. Basically, Carolyn's reminding him like, hey, this is the company vehicle we're in. They're probably going to restrict your access. Like, what are your next steps about to be? And so essentially he says, Carolyn, I need you to make a decision. Whose side are you on? I don't need someone that's going to be in the middle trying to ride the wave. I need to know if you're going to be ride or die for me. Carolyn was like, she paused, and then basically he kicked her out of the car. I was like, dang, killer instinct, what they call, actually no, because when they say he got the juice, I said, y'all, don't do that. That's not who you want to align yourself with right now. But he ends up kicking Carolyn out. He asked Greg, like, hey, can you let me know what my cultural thermometer was? And I said, is that a phrase that I'm like, what is a cultural thermometer? Kendall was really feeling himself, y'all. Kendall was feeling himself this entire episode, which is nice to see, because he's been so like depressed and just blah for a whole 2 seasons. But we see that he's trying to figure out who his lawyer is going to be. But in the midst of all of that, Logan gives him a call. He basically says, hey, We want you to retract the story and say that you were unwell, that you kind of just made this stuff up. But he basically says, like, I ain't doing it. So then Logan says, I'm going to grind your bones up to make bread. And I was just like, once again, Logan, is this the way that you should be? Is this how you're going to get through to your children? I think not. His daddy rude as hell and disrespectful. And then Kendall says, I'm finna run up the beanstalk. I said, now, baby, wait. Run up the bean? What? And then you can hear Logan laughing on the phone. I'm sitting there laughing like, Logan, I really need whoever helping you with that cultural thermometer. I'm gonna need you to learn how to shade people, okay? So we see that Kendall's basically like, I want you to step down from your position and I'll let all of this go. Logan's like, hell to the no. And so essentially, this is when Kendall starts making his phone calls, right? We see that he calls Frank. Frank actually takes his call, but then deletes the log and doesn't tell anyone who he was talking to. When he's telling like, hey, you have a spot in my company. You were the soul of the company. He's trying to butter Frank up. We see that he calls Shiv. Shiv basically just hung up on him. Then we see he calls Jerry. Jerry doesn't answer because Jerry is actually on the phone with the White House, which was really crazy because when she basically told the White House, why don't you just fire the person that's overseeing this? I said, Jerry, honey, you just willy-nilly saying that on the phone with the White House? I mean, I know that's how stuff gets done, but I was just like, wow, like, I didn't know. You said you were asking for a temperature check. I just didn't know that, like, that's what we were doing, because it's giving me desperate. It's giving me helpless. It's giving me reckless. That's what it's giving me. So we see that Kendall's in the car, and basically Greg was like, this is just like OJ, and he was like, the juice is loose, and I said, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That one cute, boo. So we see that of all the places in the world, I mean, it is kind of smart. Kendall's looking for a place to hide. The press is trying to get him. He tries to go to the office. They've already rejected his access. He doesn't know where can he go without anyone bothering him while they're trying to come up with a game plan. What is the next course of action? So he goes to his ex-wife's house. And I was like, I mean, I'm loving this, like, everyone's happy for everybody, but I would be damned if I'm finna let my ex-husband take over my entire place. Like, for all the, I mean, he made himself welcome, okay? He made himself very welcome. We see that he's, like, looking through her, like, bathroom and looking at men's razors, like, oh, is somebody else here? I was just like, why do you feel comfortable doing this? Why are you going through my stuff? Then when he asked her, could his girlfriend come? I was like, is this the time? Is this the time? And so we see like, hey, I did this for like you and the kids. He's telling the ex-wife this. I did this for you and the kids. I finally stood up to him. And she was like, baby, I ain't even watched this press conference yet. So I'm happy that you happy. And I'm happy that you think whatever you do is for me or for the kids. She was giving me, I don't care. We're divorced. That's what she was giving me. But I was still confused why he let everybody come up in her house and then his girlfriend at the same dang on time. I was just like, better than me, because I would have choked Greg when he opened up that bottle of wine. First of all, you can come in my house, but you're not finna open up my stuff, okay? You can go to the store, and just like you took your raggedy behind and go get some food and bring it up in this house, you could have took your raggedy behind to the liquor store and got you some wine. You could have called Uber Eats to send you some wine. You had mini bar delivery to send you some wine, but you want to drink my stuff. Without asking, because she came in and just told him, and then Greg just opened it, but you're not going to ask the person who is actually for, I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with it, but it just really bothered me in my spirit when people do stuff like that. So we see that essentially, we see that Lisa comes and she's basically having a preliminary meeting. And so basically she's trying to figure out whether or not she's going to actually represent him, but she actually does end up representing him. So of course this upsets Logan. He's highly upset. He's getting a new lawyer now, but basically the lines have been drawn. But in the midst of all of this, Greg has a very interesting conversation with the comms team that was waiting to basically pitch their ideas to Kendall to represent him through all of this. And I was like, baby, not you put your mama credit card on hold because she's basically doomsday buying because she think they're not going to have no money no more. Why was this necessary? But once again, this is why we love Cousin Greg, because he just always doing the most random things at the most random times. But it was the meeting with Kendall and the comm team that really took me out, because he was like, hey, do you want me to go? Do you guys want to pitch first? She's like, oh, let's pitch our ideas. And then Kendall starts talking about all these ideas. And I'm just like, Kendall, I feel like we're getting beside ourselves right now as to what is actually happening. Like, the government still hasn't reached out to you. We don't know like how big of a deal this actually is. Like, is the media picking it up? We saw that, you know, Logan's controlling what his company is doing as far as what they're saying in the media. But I just feel like he's like, I know he's feeling himself, but he's feeling himself just a little bit too much, because Logan, like they said, he's the comeback kid. He doesn't roll over and take it. He's going to sting right back. And I can't wait to see what's actually going to happen next. But I was really happy with this first episode of Succession. From when the score started, the music is just it's just beautiful. Like, I would literally listen to that music by itself, but it's just so beautiful. The score, how everything is shot. It's just so great getting back to this raggedy family. It put a smile on my face to watch this episode. I actually like the season 3 premiere. I love the title of Succession, that we're breaking it away. And so essentially we see the family is officially splitting apart. We're going to have Team Logan. We're going to have Team Kendall. Where is everyone else going to fall in place as all of this plays out? We do not know. Is Jerry actually going to make it to be CEO? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go. But at this point, he has actually chosen a successor, and it is Jerry. So let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about Jerry being the successor? Do you think it's going to end up being one of his kids? Do you think that Logan, like Kendall, are somehow going to make up? I don't know. I doubt it. I think Kendall's crossed the line at this point. But I am excited that Succession is back. Make sure you tune back every single week. I will be having these recaps live for you as soon as the episode is done airing. But those are my thoughts on Succession, Season 3, Episode 1, Succession. As always, my name is Sharronda from Payroll Waits. And if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit that notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again, bye.